How's everybody's day going? Everybody good? Let's see here. All right, cool. We live there. Let's go live here. Shoot. Let me actually share this screen. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I don't need to do that. Yeah. All right. All right, cool. So, all right, that'll work. That'll work. That'll work. Cool. All right, so we live on both. That's what's up. All right. So if you new to the TikTok, the Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe and that follow button for me real quick. Today we're going to talk about a real interesting subject. I posted, um, shoot, it's been a while because I posted, periodically about the sun sign and the rising sign, and a lot of times there's a whole bunch of controversy about it, right? You have a lot of astrologers that what I'll call have been, kind of half-assing it for a while, getting away with dropping tidbits of information that wasn't always true. And that's been going on for years, such as, I'm sure everyone's heard, you would hear people say that your most compatible sign is your direct opposite, or, whatever your 180-degree opposite sign was. And they would say that that's your most compatible sign, which was some BS, not true in any way, shape, or form. But they had been saying it and getting away with it. Well, we have, something similar when, we're talking about um, how people are being taught about the sun sign and the rising sign and what it means. It's very similar. There's been such, small tidbits of information that's been put out about it that when people don't know how to understand or recognize, the truth of the subject matter itself. So the sun sign, right? The sun sign itself represents your animated spirit. It's how you think. It's your base why. It's your reason, right? So the sun sign is what's behind your reasons for doing certain things. It's if that makes sense. So when you do something, when you're reading, when you get up in the morning, your sun sign is your spirit. It's how you do it. It's the reason why you do it. It's your ego. So if I asked you, um, Ra, or whatever your name is, Stephen or Tanya, you know, why do you do certain things? Or if I were to ask you to describe yourself, you're going to think, right? You're going to stop, you're going to think about it. When you stop and you think about it, you're going to then describe me based off of how you see yourself, your thought process towards yourself. That's how you're going to describe yourself. It's your thought process, right? That's what you're going to then relay back to me. You're going to say, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And that's all going to be based off of your thought. Islam, Barber. And so what happens with that is that we develop a mental and it will have an emotionally tied picture to um, this our own thought process, our own thoughts towards how we see ourselves, right? And then the why of everything. What is the reason why your sun represents your angle of why, right? Your angle. And what I mean by the angle, it's the reason in which you approach things the way you do. The reason, what you're trying to get out of it, what you're hoping to be your outcome, right? That's represented in partiality by your sun sign. There's other things, that also will compound that, but your sun sign is one major part of it, right? That's the sun. Now, the sun, spirit means breath. So it's kind of like, when you're born, the moment you breathe, your spirit um, is said to enter into your body, your ego, right? The soul, depending on what school of thought, because you can go into studying Buddhism and things of this nature, and they'll give you one outlook. You can study Shintoism, Christianity, Islam. They'll all give you different outlooks, and some will even say, don't even mess with it, right? Got it. Now let's talk about the rising. The rising sign is how you move. It's how you move. It's how you present yourself. This is how the world will see you. It's how you show up. It's how you lead. It's if I ask someone to tell me about Barbara or tell me about Tony, um, they're going to tell me how you move. They're going to tell me how they feel when they're around you. They're going to tell me about your actions, right? That's the rising. No matter how long someone's been in your life, they will always describe you by your rising sign. That's just how it goes. They're going to describe you by that. Now you will describe you from your sun sign, which is your animated spirit, your thoughts. Everyone else is going to describe you based on your rising sign, how you show up. Now, what's interesting, or what becomes very important to understand about these two things, is that your rising sign represents the carnal nature, right? That you've been given, the carnal body that you've been given. This is why I can take a look at someone's picture. I can look at your picture, when people don't have their time and I'm trying to, help them get their times and things like that. I can look at a picture and I'll be like, oh, okay, more than likely this is the person's rising sign. Because your rising sign, this is what you embody. Again, more misinformation. Many times people would think that you can look at someone's pictures and you would figure out their sun sign. Not really. The sun sign is not necessarily the body. There's other things to this, but the sun sign doesn't represent the body. It represents the thoughts. So generally, you're going to be able to see a person's rising sign by how they're built and how they dress, how they carry themselves. This is how you're going to be able to tell someone's rising sign. So I'll look at pictures, I'll look at those things, and I'll be like, okay, cool. So more than likely, this is the rising sign. Oh, they carry themselves a little bit more conservative. You know, they are usually very well dressed and put together. Even if they're not in anything fancy, they usually um, will be very businesslike in how they move, how they carry themselves. They don't um, make people feel they're not extremely approachable and things like that. And that may be a Capricorn rising, right? The person is energetic, always on the move, can't sit still, always on the go, starting things but not finishing them. That may be a Sagittarius or an Aries rising sign, right? So that'll be how people to see you. Now, what becomes even more interesting is that when we get into the who is the actual you, the reason that this becomes important is, hey, Leslie, no problem. Um, the reason that this becomes important is because of the controversy around it. People aren't really being made to understand how they need to see themselves and how the rising and the ascendant really interact. The true you, okay, is wrapped in the lessons of the carnal nature in many aspects. You're here to evolve through certain lessons. And those lessons are part of your development. So you're given a rising sign that puts you through certain lessons for growth. how you think influences how you move. It influences it, but it also can have a disconnect if they're in opposition or semi-sextiles or squares or quincoats, things of this nature. There can be major disconnects there between the sun and the rising sign, which can cause a person to not see themselves as the world sees them. It can put you in conflict with yourself, with your own nature, right? I've had a client who I'm talking to them and I'm like, oh, you have a Scorpio rising, but she's an Aquarius sun. And because of that, she hated when people would use words like, oh, you're so sexy, because they never called her beautiful. They didn't say she was smart, right? She's seen herself as an Aquarius. So she wanted to walk to the beat of her own drum. She wanted to do her own thing. She wanted to be known for her mind and what she did, right? And she wasn't trying to fit into anyone's box. She was not attached to the physical or the carnal in that way. So she didn't understand why everyone would use the term sexy. Well, she had a Scorpio rising. So how she moved, how she looked visually was very sexy. She moved in a lot of secretiveness. She didn't expose, what she does. Her life was very layered. That was at Scorpio, right? And so after talking, I informed her, if you want your life to go this way, or this way, then you have to accept who you actually are. You have to be okay with your God-given sex appeal, with your God-given abilities. You can't keep running away from how you see yourself because you're subjugating yourself from your lessons. And that becomes problematic, right? And that's how many people are. Your rising sign holds the lessons in many areas. People will push you towards your rising sign. They will push you towards that, especially if you are rising in Leo and things of this nature. You're going to be pushed into leadership roles. You may or may not be comfortable. That's a part of the growth process. You have to become more comfortable. You have to learn how to lead, right? How to get people to follow you. This is a part of the process, right? And you can't run from that. So let's go over the differences of the sun and rising, right? And I like to, kind of make this into, a joke because the sun thinks they are something, but the rising is really that. So Barbara said, I don't like generalized versions people put on all cancers. Anyone that knows me would definitely say, nah, she's nothing like that, although some applies, but as you know well, the chart matters. I enjoy the way you express it. Thanks, Barbara. See, a big part of what you're saying, though, has to do with the degrees. Not all cancers, Aries, Cap, not everyone's alike. The degree is the influencer. It tells you the angle of the planet that you got. So one Aries born, March the 22nd, and another Aries that's born April the 10th are totally different. They'll have similarities, but they're totally different because the degrees are different, right? Because the planetary influence on them is different. So, the signs aren't, it's not, what people be thinking a lot of times. There's way more to it. That's why you don't put things in a box. When I'm posting something, a lot of times I'm posting generalities. But if you notice on the post, some people will come in and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that doesn't really describe me. I'm not offended. I know it doesn't describe everyone because it's a generality that I'm posting. I'm not posting the complete, utter truth. That's a whole book. For me, to post about Aries is a whole book by itself. There are 30 degrees. I would literally have to break down every single degree and then go back and break down every house as it pertains to that degree. So degree number 1, I have to go through house 1 through 12. Degree number 2, house 1 through 12. That's a whole book. There's way more to astrology that people aren't understanding. Then we have the decanates and their planetary. I mean, there's a lot. So the overgeneralization, it serves a purpose to help people get going. But when you get serious about wanting to know yourself, when you get serious about understanding your path, um, then then get you really go towards more of a consultation, right? And that is why I do the consultation part, because I can't, sit here and break down that whole thing online. I don't even have time. This is a part of how I make my living. I wouldn't do that online anyway. It doesn't serve me, a purpose. It doesn't serve the greater good for me. I put out the information to help people. Those who want to research on their own, I give them enough to do that. But those who really want to get serious and get mentorship and guidance, then they come to me. Those who don't want it, they don't come to me. It's pretty much that simple. While I'm saying that, check out my website, rahspeaks.com, RAHSPEAKS.com, rahspeaks.com. Hit me up on TikTok at Rah Speaks, Twitter, Rah Speaks, YouTube, Rah Speaks. What is it? Instagram, Rah_truth_astrology. Facebook is Ramiel L. Bay. Anyway, so Sun in Aries. The Sun in Aries, I appreciate that, Barbara. Thank you. The Sun in Aries. So the Sun in Aries thinks they're in Aries. So they think in patience, right? They'll even they're mentally quick, right? They're moving on before you finish your sentence a lot of times. There's not a lot of patience there mentally. They want things to be fast, moving, right? But that doesn't mean that that's how they move. That's how they think. They want things to happen in rapid time. They're pushing things to happen mentally in rapid time. The rising in Aries is the true Aries. That's a real Aries. They move with impatience. They are impatient. They are courageous a lot of the times because there can be conflict there. They are erratic. They are go-getters. They are self-starters. The Sun in Aries thinks they are this. The rising in Aries is this. The Sun in Taurus. The Sun in Taurus wants to finish what they start. The Sun in Taurus, it does not like change. The Sun in Taurus, it thinks about stability. The Sun in Taurus thinks about their self-esteem and money and those things around stability. The Sun in Taurus wants to connect with their five senses and wants to stay grounded. The rising in Taurus is grounded. The rising in Taurus is stubborn. The rising in Taurus does finish what they start. The rising in Taurus is connected with their five senses, generally speaking. That's the difference. The Sun in Gemini. The Sun in Gemini thinks they're an intellectual. The Sun in Gemini studies. The Sun in Gemini likes to learn. The Sun in Gemini thinks communication. The rising in Gemini communicates. The rising in Gemini studies to apply. The rising in Gemini is very well learned and astute. The rising in Gemini is very much a chameleon, very much fits in to different places. The rising does. The Sun in Cancer. The sun in Cancer thinks that they're private. The sun in Cancer thinks sacrifice. The sun in Cancer um, wants to feel and wants to love and wants to take care of others. The sun in Cancer thinks about others and is attached, thinks about their attachments to their loved ones. The rising in Cancer is sacrificing. The rising in Cancer is very, very much about security, very, very much private. They don't think these things, they are those things, right? The sun in Leo, and this is a big one because we know sun in Leos have a lot of ego, right? So the sun in Leo thinks that they're a leader. The sun in Leo thinks that they are the bright shining star. The sun in Leo thinks that they have courage. The sun in Leo, what else will we say? Wants the attention. The sun in Leo wants to be courageous. The rising in Leo is the leader. The rising in Leo is courageous. The rising in Leo gets all the fame and the acclaim. The rising in Leo gets all the attention. That's who actually is the Leo. The sun in Virgo thinks meticulous, thinks they overanalyze, they think perfection. They think about being perfect. The rising Virgo is perfection. That's why no one ever thinks they have a bad day. The rising in Leo moves with meticulousness. That's the difference. And we could go down the line, and I won't, for every single sign. But that's how that works. So when you know that's how it works, and you understand again, there's lessons enveloped in the rising aspect. And when you get into the rising aspect of it, you start understanding that as the rising goes, as you grow more into who you are, then your third dimension reality goes a lot smoother. Oh, you wanted me to talk about Libra, see? Okay, let me just, for Monique, let me just talk about, the Libra thing. Lord have mercy. It's always one. I guess I just wasn't being fair enough, huh, Libra? So the sun in Libra, they think balance. They think about giving and they think about partnerships. You didn't started something now, Monique. I was about to get out of here. Now Roseanne didn't showed up. You wanted me to do Aquarius. See, now you just started this whole thing. But the sun in Libra, they think partnerships. They think about their mate. They think justice. They think those things. But the rising in Libra is justice. The sun in Libra thinks beauty. The rising in Libra is beautiful. Is the part of the epitome of what beautiful is. They are just. They come off, show themselves to be balanced. They are partners. They don't think partnership. They are partners. Aquarius for Roseanne. And this is a good one. Aquarius is actually really a good one. The sun in Aquarius thinks about walking to the beat of their own drum. The sun in Aquarius wants to do their own thing. The sun in Aquarius wants space. Um, the sun in Aquarius thinks learning about spiritual and esoteric matters. The sun in Aquarius tends to uh, disconnect um, from leadership, and because they want to just do their own thing. The rising in Aquarius is intelligent. The rising in Aquarius is royal, and people follow them because they are trendsetters. The rising in Aquarius walks to the beat of their own drum, does their own thing. They don't think it, they do it. Not the sun in Aquarius doesn't. Not all the time. The rising in Aquarius does their own thing. And that becomes the big major difference in those. So you'll go through these things where, you know, the sun signs will think, you know, this is why it's funny, and I laugh when people put up stuff about, well, you know, this sun sign is better than this. You ain't even your sun sign. You up here talking about, you know, one, tenth of your chart, as if that's the whole of you, right? It's just, but this is what, we're taught to do, because we're only really taught about our sun signs from the time that we're born until we learn to do something different. So, nothing wrong with it. But again, people who are serious about astrology and really want to learn, they get the consultations. People, who, want to do their own research, they do that too. And there's nothing wrong with that. So not everyone, can maybe are in the financial position to get the consultation or mentorships. And that's understandable. So anyway, I'm going to get off here. I didn't even check the YouTube because I'm live everywhere. Yeah, Moonchild Tarot. So she said, I would say neither. Your moon is. See, that's not true. What happens is that what we do, and I'm glad I clicked over to YouTube to see what people were saying. I'm glad you said that, Moonchild. Your sun, your moon, or how would I say that? Different parts of the planet, you're going to have different influences. So there's this whole battle, right, between what is really you, and a lot of times people are using tropical, they're dealing with what's going on over in India, or what's going on, and they're using all these different forms of astrology against each other. Okay, so this is how I tell everyone. This is literally how I teach it. Let me see. Well, you can't see a light because I don't have a light behind me. But imagine that you are in a room and you're looking up at the light, and you're in a full room. Someone goes over into the eastern corner of the room, and they look up at the light, and they describe to you the light. So they're going to describe what they see from the eastern corner of the room when they look at the light. Now, someone is over in the northern corner of the room, and they're looking at the light, and they're describing to you what they see from the northern aspect, right, of the light there, because they're in the northern corner. And they're like, oh, I see this. And you could go around the room in the south, in the west, northwest, south, and they'll all tell you what they see from the light. We're all looking at the same light, but we're all in different parts of the earth looking at this light. And so what happens is that when we describe the light, we're describing what we see, and that part of the light that influences us. See, the northern aspect of the light only influences the northern aspect of the room. So on with the south, the west, and so on and so forth. What's happening on the light on this side does not influence the room over here, even if you're just dealing with a basic light inside of a room. That's why the light is round, because it hits different angles of the room. That's the same with astrology. It's the same. So in Eastern astrology, they use the moon, right, with a and give it a bigger effect, right? They will give more influence to the moon aspects in their natal chart understandings, right? And they're moon dominant there, and they're that way for a reason. If you do, a person does research on it. Well, in the tropic of Cancer, which is what the United States is in, it's sun dominant, right? And that's not the whole, okay, but walk with me here because that's what we're talking about. But here it's sun dominant, right? And it goes to culture, it goes to all these different things play a part in what will be given and highlighted. It's not that what they're saying in the East is more correct, because it's not, and it's not that what we're saying in the West is more correct, because it's not. What we need to do a better job on is understanding the complete picture, and instead of dividing the picture as if, well, the West is right and the East is wrong, or the South is right and the nah, it's all correct. And the more we learn all of it, the better and the more rounded we are as teachers, as mentors, as students. We become way more rounded. So this is why I research it all. In my astrology course, I teach aspects of Eastern astrology. I teach the history of it, because I want those who come up under me to understand this is the origin of it, and this is why they do what they do. This is why they say what they say. Let me teach you a little bit about it, and then you can research the rest on your own, so that we can understand that we need to understand the complete picture, which is the whole part of the life. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'm glad you made the comment, Mushal, because that is something that needs to be said, because there's a tendency for a lot of us, to do that. So I am out of here. I will be back on tomorrow. Share the video. Hit me, go subscribe on TikTok, for me, please. On Instagram, go check me out there. YouTube, Ra Speaks. I'm really gonna start doing more on YouTube, because that's who pays you the most. TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, they be BSing. But YouTube and is the one who actually, for your streams and all that. So please go over to hit me up on YouTube at Ra Speaks. Hit the subscribe and subscribe button, so that you can stay up on new content and so on and so forth. All right. Peace and love, y'all.